The accusation echoed off the panoramic glass of the penthouse office, a sterile sound in a room built for quiet power. The chief of security, a man whose face was a permanent mask of grim duty, held up the evidence, a single hairpin exquisitely crafted from jade and silver, its butterfly wings seeming to tremble under the recessed lighting. It was the hairpin His Majesty had given her. Corporate theft is a serious offense, Miss Shangwon, the chief said, his voice a low rumble. This item was reported missing from His Majesty's private collection. Shangwon Rang's breath hitched. A cold dread, sharp and immediate, pierced through her shock. Theft? That's impossible. He gave that to me. Our own voice sounded foreign, a thin, trembling thing in the cavernous space. From a leather armchair, Yan Rui rose with the fluid grace of a predator. A smug, polished smile played on her lips as she circled Shangwon Rang, her heels clicking softly on the marble floor. He gave it to you, she purred, her tone dripping with saccharine disbelief. An exclusive piece from the Imperial Garden collection, to an ordinary office assistant. Tell me, Shangwon Rang, what could you possibly have done to earn such a generous gift? The implication hung in the air, venomous and suffocating. Beside her, little Linga clutched her mother's hand, her small face pale with confusion and fear. It wasn't like that, Shangwon Rang insisted, her indignation a fragile shield. It was a gift, the aroma of savory pork and scallions, a cloud of fragrant steam, was the scent of survival. Shangwon Rang expertly pleated the delicate dough of another bun, her movements a blur of practiced grace. Beside her, little Linga stacked bamboo steamers, her small face serious as she handled the day's earnings. Their stall, a humble cart on the edge of a bustling food festival, had become an unlikely sensation. A line snaked down the pavement, a testament to a family recipe and a mother's fierce will. The pleasant hum of commerce was shattered by a gravelly voice that dripped with condescension. Well, business is good for the little widow. Shangwon Rang's hands stilled. She didn't have to look up to know it was Brother Scar, a local bully whose face was a roadmap of cheap liquor and bad decisions. He swaggered to the front of the line, his two hulking lackeys flanking him like gargoyles. He leered at her, his gaze sliding over her simple clothes as if he could see through them. A woman like you shouldn't be slaving over a hot stove. You're too pretty for this drudgery. Be my third concubine. I'll take care of you, he sneered, the offer an insult wrapped in a threat. A ripple of unease went through the crowd. Shangwon Rang straightened her back, her expression hardening into cool marble. If you're not buying, you're blocking the line. Brother Scar's greasy smile faltered. Feisty. I like that. He slammed a meaty fist on the cart, rattling the steamers. Fine. Let's talk business. A stall this popular needs protection. You'll pay us our fee, and we'll make sure nothing bad happens to it. We don't need your protection, she said, her voice low and steady. Wrong answer, he snarled, signaling his men. Smash it. As the thugs lunged forward, their arms raced to bring ruin upon the small stall. Linga, who had been watching with unnerving calm, subtly shifted her weight. Her foot nudged a loose cobblestone. The first thug, lunging forward, stepped on the wobbly stone, his ankle twisting violently. He pitched forward with a yelp, not into the stall, but directly into the path of his companion. The second thug, unable to stop, tripped over the first, his flailing fist connecting squarely with Brother Scar's jaw. The crack was audible over the gasps of the crowd. Brother Scar stumbled back, clutching his face, his eyes wide with disbelief. His two men were tangled, groaning heap on the ground. It was so perfectly, comically timed that it looked like a slapstick routine. But as the thugs looked up, their eyes met Linga's, and a primal, inexplicable fear washed over them. They saw not a little girl, but an ancient, unblinking stillness that promised consequences far worse than a broken jaw. They scrambled to their feet, bowing frantically to Shangwon Rang. "Our apologies, we were wrong. So sorry," they stammered, before practically dragging their stunned boss away. The crowd, moments ago frozen in fear, erupted into cheers, applauding Shangwon Rang's quiet courage. Shaken but resolute, Shangwon Rang tried to return to her work. But the incident had drawn a different kind of attention. As the crowd dispersed, Linga's gaze was captured by a stall across the way, where a boisterous auction was in progress. It wasn't food, but rock-dull, dusty jade was being sold in a high-stakes game of jade gambling. "Mama," Linga said, her small hand tugging on Shangwon Rang's sleeve. "Over there." Shangwon Rang followed her gaze, her heart sinking. She knew the game. Fortunes were won and lost on the cut of a stone. "Linga, we only have 200 coins. That's for tomorrow's supplies. We need more than just supplies." "Mama," Linga said, a voice firm with a conviction that belied her years. She led her mother to the stall, the air thick with the greed and desperation of speculators. Ignoring the large, promising-looking stones on display, Linga pointed to a dusty, unremarkable rock being used to prop up a corner of the display table. "I want that one," the shopkeeper chuckled. "Little girl, that's a doorstop, not an ore. But if you want to waste your money, 200 coins." The crowd snickered at the child's foolish impulse. With a worried sigh, Shangwon Rang handed over their entire earnings. The cutter, with a theatrical shrug, placed the worthless-looking rock on his saw. The blade whined, splitting the stone in two. A collective gasp swept through the crowd. Inside the dull grey crust was a heart of pure, imperial green, a premium jade of the highest quality. 10 taels of silver, the auctioneer announced, his voice trembling with shock. An astonishing return. Linga took the silver, her expression unchanged. "Mama needs a better house," she stated simply, turning back to the shopkeeper. "Another one. Kid, your luck is spent," the shopkeeper warned, though his eyes gleamed with newfound respect. "Don't push it." Linga ignored him, selecting another ordinary stone from a discard pile. Again, the saw whined again. A flash of brilliant color was revealed, a rare lavender jade. The crowd was now a buzzing hive of disbelief. This wasn't luck. It was something else entirely. Just as the auctioneer was about to value the second stone, a man in fine silks pushed his way to the front. It was Squire Liu, a notorious investor known for his predatory instincts. His eyes were fixed on Linga, not as a child, but as an asset. "I will give you 200 taels," he announced, his voice silencing the crowd, "for the next stone this child selects. Uncut." It was an outrageous sum, a blatant attempt to buy her uncanny talent. Linga looked up at the squire, her gaze clear and penetrating. She saw the avarice coiling behind his polite smile. Feigning childish disinterest, she shook her head. "I'm tired, then," as if an idea just occurred to her. She added, "But you look like a lucky man, sir. Why don't you pick a stone for me? If it wins, I'll give you a 10% commission for your trouble." Blinded by greed, Squire Liu saw only the potential for a massive profit from what he believed was a naive child. The proposition was perfect. He could use her luck and his own expertise to make a fortune. A clever proposal. Done. He boomed. He scanned the remaining stones, his eyes settling on the largest, most expensive, or on the table a behemoth that cost a staggering 10,000 taels, a sum that could buy half the market street. Confident he was about to secure the deal of a lifetime, he paid the astronomical price. The cutting wheel spun, the sound filling a dead silent square. The blade passed all the way through the massive boulder. When the two halves fell apart, they revealed nothing, just plain, worthless rock, grey and lifeless to its core. Squire Lew stared, his face draining of all colour. The silence was broken by his strangled cry of fury. "You tricked me, this is fraud, deception." The crowd, which had moments ago hailed Linga as a prodigy, now muttered among themselves, dismissing her wins as a fluke, a bit of dumb luck that had run its course. They saw only a ruined nobleman and a child who had gotten in over her head. Amidst the chaos and accusations, Linga calmly walked over to the worthless, bisected rock. She patted its dusty surface. Shangwon Rang rushed to her side, ready to shield her from the squire's rage. "It's okay, Mama," Linga said, a voice a quiet anchor in the storm. She looked at the worthless stone, then up at her mother, a secret knowledge shining in her eyes. "Let's take it home. I promise. It will give us a grand surprise." The single fluorescent tube in their cramped kitchen flickered, casting long shadows over the scarred wooden table. In the center sat the dull, grey rock the worthless, oversized pebble Yan Ruyu had contemptuously tossed at them as a final insult. Shangwon Rang watched, her heart a knot of anxiety, as Linga carefully poured a ladle of cool water over its surface. It began with a hum, a low vibration that seemed to emanate from the stone itself. The water didn't run off. It was absorbed, vanishing into the porous grey exterior. Then, a soft, internal light began to pulse from within, turning the drab rock into a celestial lantern. Shangwon Rang gasped, her hand flying to her mouth. The grey shell seemed to dissolve like mist, revealing an enormous, flawless jade, shimmering with a breathtaking, ethereal green light that filled their tiny kitchen with the glow of a forest dawn. It was impossibly beautiful, a solid piece of captured moonlight. "Linga, what is this?" she whispered, her voice trembling. Linga, ever the pragmatist, wiped her small hands on her apron. "It's a stone of 1,000 veils, Mama. Its true form only appears when it's hydrated. A once in a millennium gem." She tapped a small device in her hand, a custom-built scanner she'd pieced together from scrap. Based on its purity and size, the estimated market value is at least 100 million. 100 million. The number was an abstraction, a string of zeros that had no meaning in their world of counting every coin for steamed buns. Shangwon Rang sank onto a stool, the sheer weight of the figure pressing down on her. "We could never spend that much in 10 lifetimes," she breathed, overwhelmed. A visionary gleam lit Linga's eyes, a look far too old for her years. "This isn't, Mama. It's the beginning." She patted the glowing jade. "We'll sell it. And we won't just have a bun shop. We'll have 100, 1,000. We'll build an empire." Months later, the scent of fresh baked dough and savory fillings wafted through the city's most exclusive business district. The grand opening of Linga's Buns, the flagship store of a rapidly expanding chain, was a resounding success. Shangwon Rang, now dressed in a simple but elegant cheongsam, moved through the bustling crowd with a newfound confidence, a warm smile for every customer. Across the street, a man in a simple trench coat and dark sunglasses watched the scene, his driver standing respectfully a few paces behind. His Majesty, the CEO who had once cast her out, felt a familiar ache in his chest. This place, it was everything she had ever wanted. He had been walking through the city, trying to exorcise her ghost from its streets, when the scent of her favorite taro buns had drawn him here. A foolish hope. He knew. She was corn. Driven by a masochistic impulse, he crossed the street and bought a bun. He took a bite, and the world stopped. The soft, pillowy dough, the sweet, earthy taro paste with that secret hint of osman deceit was her recipe. Exactly. His heart hammered against his ribs. Could it be? His eyes scanned the crowd, desperately searching. And then he saw her. Older, a little more tired around the eyes, but unmistakably her. Without thinking, his body moved on its own. He pushed through the throng of customers, his hand reaching out, needing to confirm she was real. His fingers brushed her arm. Shangwon Rang flinched, spinning around. The contact was brief, but it sent a startling jolt through her. She faced a tall stranger whose features were hidden behind dark glasses. "Excuse me," she said, her voice sharp with indignation. "What do you think you're doing? Engaging in indecent assault in broad daylight?" His Majesty froze, his mind reeling. It was her voice. "I'm sorry," he stammered, his own voice hoarse. "I mistook you for someone else." Before he could say more, his assistant stepped forward, bristling with protective fury. "Do you have any idea who you're talking to? Show some respect." "Merchant. Chung Wei." "Enough," His Majesty commanded, his tone low and laced with a profound sadness. He looked at Shangwon Rang one last time, a universe of regret in his hidden eyes. He couldn't allow himself the luxury of this fantasy. "My apologies, ma'am." He turned away, his shoulders slumped. To his assistant, he murmured, if only it truly were her. Or words were a quiet confirmation of his lingering affection, a lament for a ghost he still hadn't laid to rest. He departed, leaving Shangwon Rang standing in the crowd, utterly bewildered by the strange, intense encounter. That evening, in the sterile, imposing boardroom that served as the family's formal reception hall, his mother, the dowager chairwoman, addressed him with icy precision. "The company's reputation is unstable. The board is restless. Your sentimentality has become a liability." She tapped a gilded prospectus on the polished mahogany table. "I am therefore announcing a corporate selection. We will find a suitable chief operating partner for your woman of impeccable pedigree and ruthless ambition. Your preferences are no longer a factor." The news spread like wildfire. When Linga saw the announcement on a tablet, her eyes lit up with tactical brilliance. "Mama, you have to enter." Shangwon Rang, still unnerved from the incident at the shop, shook her head. "That world is behind us. Linga, we have this. This isn't about them. It's about you," Linga insisted, her small hand covering her mother's. "You deserve to reclaim what was stolen. Let me handle the details. No one will hurt you, I promise." At the registration hall, the line of hopefuls snaked through a ground marble lobby. The air was thick with perfume and ambition. Suddenly, a phalanx of guards shoved their way to the front, clearing a path for a young woman in haute couture. Yan Rushwong, Yan Ru's equally arrogant niece, sneered at Shangwon Rang's simple attire. "Look what crawled out of the market. They'll let anyone with a merchant's stall in these days." As her attendant puffed out his chest to shove Shangwon Rang aside, Linga, standing beside her mother, subtly extended her foot. The man stumbled, his arrogant posture collapsing into a ridiculous, flailing heap, earning a ripple of laughter from the crowd. The commotion caught the eye of a corrupt official overseeing the process. He strode over, his gaze dismissive. "Registration requires a non-refundable administrative fee of 10,000, he declared, inventing the rule on the spot. It was a clear attempt to disqualify her. As Shangwon Rang's face fell, Linga simply stared at the man. He suddenly clutched his stomach, his face turning a sickly shade of green before he doubled over, rushing for the nearest washroom. In the ensuing confusion, a senior administrator took over, waving Shangwon Rang through without a second glance. The preliminary rounds were a showcase of Linga's subtle power. When Yan Rushwong took the stage to present her business proposal, the projector inexplicably flickered, her microphone cut out with bursts of static, and her perfectly rehearsed speech fell apart. When it was Shangwon Rang's turn, the lighting seemed to soften, warming her features, and her voice, though nervous, carried through the auditorium with a clear, resonant confidence. With every step, Linga was a silent, invisible guardian, dismantling every obstacle in her mother's path, paving a golden road back to the life she deserved. The air in the grand selection hall was thick with ambition and perfume. Backstage, in a secluded alcove, Yam Ruyu's movements were studied in practiced grace as she prepared tea. A faint, bitter almond scent, almost imperceptible, clung to the steam rising from one of the delicate porcelain cups. She slid it onto the tray, her smile a perfect, predatory curve. This was for Shangwon Rang, a final, silencing gesture before her presentation. But nothing escaped Linger's notice. From her perch on a velvet stool, the child's eyes, ancient and sharp in her young face, tracked the cup. While Yam Ruyu was momentarily distracted by her sister, Yam Rushwong, Linger hopped down. With the swift, silent confidence of a chess master repositioning a key piece, she switched the cups. A simple, devastating transposition. When Yan Rushwong complained of a dry throat, Yam Ruyu gestured impatiently toward the tray. Here, drink this, and try to look presentable. Rushwong, oblivious, drained the cup in one swallow. Minutes later, when the announcer called her name, Yan Rushwong stepped into the blinding glare of the stage lights. A collective, horrified gasp rippled through the audience. Her face, moments ago merely haughty, was now a grotesque mask of angry red welts and swollen tissue. She touched a hand to her cheek, uncomprehending, as the first whispers of revulsion became a wave of shocked murmurs. Seated on his corporate throne, His Majesty's face was stone. He looked at the disfigured woman, then shot a look of pure ice at Yan Ruyu in the wings. The disgust in his eyes was visceral. Get her off the stage, he commanded, his voice a low, dangerous rumble that cut through the commotion. He waved a dismissive hand, not just at Rushwong, but at the entire Yan family's desperate bid for power. The message was clear. This incompetence, this ugliness, had no place here. Next, the announcer stammered, recovering. Shangwon Rang. The name hung in the air. Shangwon Rang emerged from the shadows, her posture posed, her expression serene, a stark contrast to the chaos that preceded her. She wore a simple but elegant dress, the quiet confidence she radiated more commanding than any jewel. His Majesty froze. The world around him a gasping crowd. The glaring lights, the simmering crisis fell away. It was her, the woman from that rainy night, the one who had occupied his thoughts for years, the name he'd never been able to forget, the face he'd replayed in his mind 1,000 times. A raw, unguarded emotion broke through his imperial facade. Shangwon Rang, he breathed, the name a soft utterance of disbelief and profound recognition that was caught by his lapel microphone and broadcast throughout the silent hall. Sensing her opportunity slipping away, Yam Ruyu stormed onto the stage, her face contorted with rage. Your Majesty, this woman is a fraud, a thief. She brandished the familiar phoenix hairpin, its jewels catching the light. She stole this from me years ago. She is unworthy of your consideration. His Majesty's gaze never left Shangwon Rang. He saw the hairpin, and the memory, sharp and vivid, pierced through the fog of time. A windswept balcony, a promise whispered in the dark, and him, pressing this very pin into her hand. His voice, when it came, was unequivocal, a thunderclap that shattered Yam Ruyu's accusation. I gave it to her. The declaration silenced everything. Yam Ryu staggered back as if struck. The CEO's mother, seated in the front row, rose quickly, a placating smile stretched across her face. My son, let us maintain harmony. There is no need for such public pronouncements, but he was done with harmony. He was done with the charade. He stood, his full authority descending upon the room. From this day forward, he announced, his eyes locked on a stunned Shangwon Rang. She will be known as consort. It was not a title of romance, but of power, a senior executive position, a direct report. With those words, he didn't just vindicate her. He publicly armed her, pulling her from the ashes and placing her firmly by his side. Later that night, the glamour of the hall had been replaced by the cold, blue glow of monitors in his executive suite. The victory felt hollow, a fleeting moment of order in a world descending into chaos. Crisis maps painted a grim picture on a wall-sized screen. The regional floods in the south are devastating our distribution networks, an aide reported grimly, and the northern droughts have crippled the supply chain for our primary resources. His Majesty ran a hand over his face, the weight of his empire pressing down on him. Sleep was a luxury he hadn't afforded in days. He saw not market downturns and logistical failures, but the faces of the people who depended on him: employees, families, entire communities. Allocate 10 million from the corporate reserves, he ordered, his voice sharp with urgency. Disaster relief. Now, I want every cent to reach the people who need it. No excuses. But in the shadowed corridors of the company, loyalty was a commodity. The Chancellor, a key executive long in the pocket of the Yan family, met with his steward. 10 million, the Chancellor sneered, swirling amber liquid in a glass. His Majesty is far too sentimental. 100,000 will be more than enough for a public display of charity. The rest will be put to better use at a makeshift relief depot beneath the grey, weeping sky. The better use was on full display. A paltry collection of rice and blankets was being doled out to a long line of desperate people. The officials made self-congratulatory speeches. It was then that Linga, standing atop a wooden crate, pointed a small finger at the lead official. Her voice, clear and piping, carried with impossible authority. "Chancellor's office. You are liars," she declared. The crowd quieted, turning to stare at the small child. His Majesty allocated 10 million for relief. We have seen the ledgers. You are distributing less than 100,000. Where? Her voice rose, an indictment that echoed through the stunned silence. Is the other 9,900,000? Before the ensuing uproar could even reach the executive suite, a new catastrophe struck. An aide burst in, breathless. "Your Majesty, the Snow Kingdom has invaded. They've launched a hostile takeover. A coordinated market attack. We've already lost 3 cities." On the monitor, 3 major international markets flashed from a stable blue to a hostile blood red. Just then, the door slid open to reveal General Yan Ryu's brother, and the company's formidable head of global security. He stood with an unnerving calm, his arms crossed. He wasn't there to offer aid. He was there to issue an ultimatum. "The Snow Kingdom's tactics are aggressive, but I can repel them," he said, his tone flat and devoid of allegiance. "Make my sister Yan Ryu the Empress Chief Operating Officer. Give her the power she deserves." He let the threat hang in the air, heavy and suffocating. "In exchange, I will save your company. Refuse, and you can watch it burn." The room was a pressure cooker of impossible choices. His Majesty was cornered, trapped between corporate extinction and a corrupt family's blackmail. As the executives stared in grim silence, a small figure stepped out from behind Shangwan Rang's legs. Linga looked directly at the CEO, her expression utterly serious. "Your Majesty," she said, her voice cutting through the tension with astonishing clarity. "Repelling these trivial invaders is a simple matter. You don't need him." She gestured dismissively toward the stunned General Yan. "My mother and I will handle it."